Bogle's family restaurant on 8th Avenue is not a famous place. But if you need a large, cheap meal, then Bogle's is the place for you. There are 12 tables in the room, 6 on each side. Bogle's himself sits at the desk by the door and takes the money. There are also 2 waitresses and a voice. The voice comes from the kitchen. At the time of my story, one of the waitresses was called Aileen. She was tall, beautiful, and full of life. The name of the other waitress was Tildy. She was small, fat, and was not beautiful. Most of the people who came to eat at Bogle's were men, and they loved the beautiful Aileen. They were happy to wait a long time for their meals, because they could look at her. Aileen knew how to hold a conversation with 12 people and work hard at the same time. And all the men wanted to take Aileen dancing or give her presents. One gave her a gold ring, and one gave her a little dog. And poor Tildy, in the busy, noisy restaurant, men's eyes did not follow Tildy. Nobody laughed and talked with her. Nobody asked her to go dancing, and nobody gave her presents. She was a good waitress, but when she stood by the tables, the men looked around her to see Aileen. But Tildy was happy to work with no thanks. She was happy to see the men with Aileen. She was happy to know that the men loved Aileen. She was Aileen's friend, but deep inside, she too wanted a man to love her. Tildy listened to all Aileen's stories. One day, Aileen came in with a black eye. A man hit her because she did not want to kiss him. How wonderful to have a black eye for love, Tildy thought. One of the men who came to Bogle's was a young man called Mr. Cedars. He was a small, thin man, and he worked in an office. He knew that Aileen was not interested in him, so he sat at one of Tildy's tables, said nothing, and ate his fish. One day when Mr. Cedars came in for his meal, he drank too much beer. He finished his fish, got up, put his arm around Tildy, kissed her loudly, and walked out of the restaurant. For a few seconds, Tildy just stood there. Then Aileen said to her, "Why, Tildy? You bad girl. I must watch you. I don't want to lose my men to you." Suddenly, Tildy's world changed. She understood now that men could like her and want her as much as Aileen. She, Tildy, could have a love life too. Her eyes were bright and her face was pink. She wanted to tell everybody her secret. When the restaurant was quiet, she went and stood by Bogle's desk. "Do you know what a man in the restaurant did to me today?" she said. "He put his arm around me and he kissed me." "Really?" Bogle's answered. This was good for business. "Next week you'll get $1 a week more." And when, in the evening, the restaurant was busy again, Tildy put down the food on the tables and said quietly, "Do you know what a man in the restaurant did to me today? He put his arm around me and kissed me." Some of the men in the restaurant were surprised. Some of them said, "Well done." Men began to smile and say nice things to her. Tildy was very happy. Love was now possible in her gray life. For 2 days, Mr. Cedars did not come again, and in that time Tildy was a different woman. She wore bright clothes, did her hair differently, and she looked taller and thinner. Now she was a real woman because someone loved her. She felt excited and a little afraid. What would Mr. Cedars do the next time he came in? At 4 o'clock in the afternoon of the third day, Mr. Cedars came in. There were no people at the tables, and Aileen and Tildy were working at the back of the restaurant. Mr. Cedars walked up to them. Tildy looked at him, and she could not speak. Mr. Cedars' face was very red, and he looked uncomfortable. "Miss Tildy," he said, "I want to say that I'm sorry for what I did to you a few days ago. It was the drink, you see. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm very sorry," and Mr. Cedars left. But Tildy ran into the kitchen and she began to cry. She could not stop crying. She was no longer beautiful. No man loved her. No man wanted her. The kiss meant nothing to Mr. Cedars. Tildy did not like him very much, but the kiss was important to her, and now there was nothing. But she still had her friend, and Aileen put her arm around Tildy. Aileen did not really understand, but she said, "Don't be unhappy, Tildy. That little Cedar has got a face like a dead potato. He's nothing. A real man never says sorry." Once, a poor woman from India had a son. His name was Ravi. She worked hard, making bread for rich families. They paid her with a little grain, and she and Ravi lived on it. But she never had any money to buy nice things. One morning, she had some grain to sell in the market. When she was leaving, she said to her son, "Today we'll have some money." "Do you want something from the market?" Ravi knew that they had very little money, and usually he never asked for anything. But that morning he said, "A drum." The mother said nothing. She knew that she wouldn't have enough money for a drum. She went to the market and sold the grain. Then she bought some flour and salt to make bread. She felt sad that she had nothing for Ravi. So, when she saw a piece of wood on the road, she picked it up and brought it home. She was sure that Ravi would find something to do with it. Ravi didn't know what to do with it, but he didn't want to disappoint his mother. So, he carried the wood with him and he went to look for his friends. While he was walking along the street, Ravi saw an old woman. She was trying to light a fire and she was crying. "What's the matter?" he asked. "I need to make bread, but I can't light this fire. This wood is too wet," she replied. "I've got some dry wood that you can use," said Ravi. The old woman took Ravi's wood, lit the fire with it, made some bread, and gave a piece of it to Ravi. Ravi wasn't hungry, but to say no to the old woman wouldn't be kind. So he took the bread and walked on. Little later, he came to a young woman by the road with a child in her arms. The child was crying loudly. The young woman's face was tired and sad. "Why is your son crying?" Ravi asked. "He's hungry and I have nothing to give him," the young woman replied. Ravi gave his piece of bread to the child. "Eat this," he said. The little boy stopped crying, took it quickly, ate it and smiled. "Thank you. You're very kind," the mother said. "Please take this pot. You will think of some way to use it, I'm sure." Ravi didn't know what to do with the pot, but to refuse would be hurtful. So he took it and started walking again. A little while later, he came to the river, where he saw a man and his wife. They were standing next to some clothes and a pot, which lay in pieces on the ground. The man was shouting at his wife, and they were both angry. "Why are you shouting at your wife?" Ravi asked the man. "She's broken our pot," he replied. "I dropped it." "It was a mistake," said the wife, crying. "Perhaps," the man went on, "but people pay us to wash their clothes, and now we don't have anything to boil water in." Ravi said, "Look, I don't need my pot. Please take that." The man and his wife were very happy with their new pot. The man took off his coat. "You've been very kind. I want to thank you. Please take this coat." It was a fine coat, but it was too big for Ravi. He didn't know what to do. But he didn't want to disappoint the man, so he took the coat and went on walking along by the river. After a short time, he came to a bridge where he saw something strange. A man was sitting on a horse wearing only trousers. He was shivering. "What happened?" Ravi asked. "I was coming to the city on my horse. Some thieves were waiting on their road. They took everything. My money, shirt, hat, and coat, even my shoes." "Please, take my coat," said the boy. The man took it. "You're very kind," he said. "How can I pay you for what you've done?" "I don't need paying," Ravi replied. "I'm happy to help you." "Well," said the man, "you've done a very kind thing, so I want to give you my horse." Ravi and his mother didn't have enough food for a horse at home, but he couldn't say no to the man. So he took the horse and went across the bridge to the other side of the river. There, he saw some people going to a wedding. A bridegroom, his family, and some musicians. They were wearing beautiful clothes, but they were sitting sadly under a tree. "Why are you all so sad?" Ravi asked them. The bridegroom's father said, "We need a horse for the bridegroom. The man with the horse hasn't come, and the bridegroom can't arrive on foot because everyone will laugh at him. It's late now, and everybody's waiting for us. Please take my horse," said Ravi. "Are you sure?" said the bridegroom. "Yes," said Ravi. "I don't want it." So the bridegroom took the horse. "You're very kind. Now we can go to the wedding. But how can I thank you?" Ravi looked at one of the musicians. "Well, perhaps you can give me the drum that your musician is carrying." The bridegroom gave some money to the musician, and he took the drum from him and turned to Ravi. "Is that all?" asked the bridegroom. "Yes, thank you," cried Ravi, taking the drum, and he ran home, beating it all the way.